What's up, you guys? Welcome to my channel. This is my first video on my book account. I actually have a beauty account I will list down below, so if you want to check that out. But this is my new reading nook, so I'm super excited to get right into this video. Today I'm going to be telling you guys about all the books that I read in the month of May and rating them for you. I read 10 books. I am so proud of myself. So let's get right into it. The first book I want to talk about is Mile High. This was the first book I read this month, and let me tell you, amazing, literally amazing. This book is about a girl named Stevie, and she actually is a flight attendant for a private plane with hockey players. So this plane is new, she's new to working here, and she meets a guy named Xander. So they definitely have a, little beef with each other. They play around with each other. He just likes to annoy her. And of course, he thinks she's attractive, and she thinks he's attractive, but they come from different worlds. He's super famous, and her job, she works on the same plane as him, so nothing can happen. You probably know where we're going with this, but one thing leads to another, and you have two people who have gone through a lot who come together, and it is a beautiful book. So well done. One of my new favorite books of all time, in the top 5. Definitely in the top 5. But anyways, it is so beautiful. The only critique I can make is I think they focused a little bit too much on her weight. I love the representation of different body types and heavier girls being beautiful, and I love that. I just think they could have gone without focusing too much on her weight. The next book I want to talk about is the second in the Windy City series, which is the same of the book I just mentioned. This is called The Right Move. So The Right Move is about a guy named Ryan, who is an NBA player, and a girl named Indy. Stevie in the past books, twin brother is Ryan, who is an NBA player. He is super rich and an NBA player who is very closed off, doesn't give anyone a chance, has gone through a lot when it comes to trauma with women, and he's just focusing on his career. Now, what happens is our main character, Indy, in the book is actually working as a flight attendant with Stevie on the plane in the previous book. She is a free spirit, she's lively, and what happens is her soul gets crushed, she gets cheated on. This breaks Indy, and now she's struggling financially. So Stevie, who is the sister of Ryan's, actually asks him if Indy can move in with him for a bit. And he's like, absolutely not. I love my own space. And she's like, come on, just let my friend live there for a little bit. You're barely there, whatever. So he gives in because him and his sister have the most beautiful relationship. I love the representation of just such a good sibling relationship. She moves in and she decorates the place, and he's like, oh my God, get this girl out of here. But of course there is attraction right off the bat. The thing I love about books like romance books is I hate insta love, but I do really love insta attraction, because that's human of us. When we see a guy or a girl, you're like, oh my God, they're really good looking. That's human, but you don't fall in love right away. I hate insta love. Anyways, yes, it's actually a fake dating trope. I hate fake dating tropes. This one, so well done. It's probably my new favorite book of all time. I'm not gonna lie. It's that good. What happens is he kind of has a thing in the media where he's super closed off, and his coach is like, yo, you need to see him a little more nice in the media and different things. He slips up and says to his coach, oh, I actually have a girlfriend, and he's lying, and he said Indy. Now he has to go to Indy and be like, hey, I told my coach that you're my girlfriend. And she's like, what? We cannot fake date. She eventually gives in. So anyways, one thing leads to another. You can kind of see where it's going. It has a lot of conflict and 2 lost souls. It is a slow burn, a really big slow burn. I love that. And the spicy scenes are spicy. The next book I read is Flawless in the Chestnut Springs series, my new favorite series. I just ordered a sweatshirt off Etsy, which is the cutest thing in the entire world, from this series. What happens is our main character, who is a cowboy, ends up having a deal with a milk company, and he gets caught on TV kind of saying he hates milk, which is really odd. So his coach is furious, and he's like, you need to stop getting with girls, you need to chill out, and you need a good image in the media. And his daughter just graduated law school, and this is the only part, this is why I knocked down 1 star from this book. It didn't really make sense. He's like, basically, my daughter needs to be your babysitter and live with you for a bit to make sure you stay in order. I think it could have gone differently. That's my only problem with the book. It could have been her maybe not living with him and kind of being his new second manager type thing who keeps him in line. That would have been better, but I did look past it because it was a really good book. But it's definitely, the first book is my least favorite in the series, but still outstanding, and I would highly recommend to read these in orders because the world is beautiful. I'm obsessed with the world. Anyways, he ends up starting to live with her, and she's kind of trying to keep him in order, and he hates being tamed. As you guys can probably see, one thing leads to another, and there is that attraction that goes on, but they're both two souls that, you know, have gone through different things, and she's gone through a really, tough time and different things, but they come together, and it's a really beautiful book, definitely 4 stars. But we're gonna get to the second one, because the second one, oof. I have to say, though, the third one is definitely my favorite in the series, but I read that on June 1st, sadly. So that will be in next month's thing, and they're also coming out with their 4th book on the 9th. This next book is called Heartless. Now, our main character in the past book, his brother is named Cade. He's older, and he's actually taking care of his daughter, and his, ex-wife is just out of the picture. So he's doing it on his own. He needs a live-in nanny. It's becoming too much for him. He needs the help. He works. He needs the help. His brother actually ends up with the main character girl in the other book, the one who was like, had to live with him. And she's like, hey, I have a friend who can live with you. I promise she's amazing. So she comes and she's full of life. She's an amazing spirit. And he's so grumpy. And he's like, this girl's not living here. She's not living here. But then he sees her with his kid and they get along. And he's like, okay, fine. So now they're living together. And over time, things start speeding up. They get spicy. And this book is very spicy. But all of them are slow burns, which I personally love. This is, oof, so spicy. I would have to rate it a 4.5 stars. The only thing that I would say I didn't love about the book was the last 2 chapters. If it wasn't for that, this would be like a 4.8 stars. I just think the 2 last chapters kind of, I don't know, it kind of ruined it. But I can look past that. Girl, they're spicy and long. I love a good, spicy, long scene. Love. The next book I read is Twisted Lies, and did enjoy the book. I would rate it maybe a 4 stars. It is definitely something to pick up. It's not my favorite book of all time. I don't think I'd read it again, but it was really good, and it was about a girl. She does social media, so I really related to that, which I really liked. She ends up losing her other job. She's struggling with money. Now, she's living in this apartment complex, and it's getting too expensive for her, but the guy who owns it lives upstairs. This is the only weird part. He's like, hey, listen, he's always attracted to her. He's like, hey, listen, you can stay here rent-free if you take care of my plants. Okay, we could have definitely made like a different reason as to why she could stay there. He's super into her. She's just kind of like, oh, this guy's so hot, but like he's too much. Anyways, one thing leads to another. You kind of see where it goes. She ends up becoming a fake dating relationship. Now, I read actually I think 3 fake dating relationships this month. This was probably my least favorite out of them, but it did kind of make sense. She is on social media and her numbers are kind of lacking. Her analytics are low. And of course, the best way to fake date is to get some clout from the other person. He's super, rich and famous and whatever for being wealthy. So it starts working out for her when they start fake dating. He really doesn't need the fake dating, but he just wants her to like vibe with her. So the one thing I can complain about is they included too many characters in the beginning. Other than that, I think it's a really good book. It's not my favorite book of all time. I'd recommend it. I can totally see why another person would like eat it up and love it. Personally, I liked it. It's just I'm not obsessed with the book. The next book I read is In a Jam. I did really enjoy this book. It's definitely more character-based. It's about this girl and a guy. They live in a small town when they were young. It bounces back and forth in time. They lived in a small town when they were young. And by the way, they didn't go back and forth too much. I hate that. But they lived in a small town or whatever. And she became popular when she moved there. And he was always kind of a loser, but she always did hang out with him. But she was always also at school preoccupied by like the popular guys and the popular girls. But he always had a crush on her. So what happens is, years later, they had promised each other, though, when they were young, that they'd always keep in touch and they'd become somebody in this world. But she didn't keep in touch with him, and it crushed him because she meant a lot to him. So that was really sad. I loved his character. I loved him. He was amazing. Like, truly an amazing guy character. I adored him. Anyways, by the way, I love the cover. What happens is, how many times can I repeat that? So what happens is, years later, this is 10 years later in the future, she ends up about to marry a guy and he stands her up at the altar. So her world is falling apart. Her grandma, who's not her biological grandma, but someone who did help raise her, ends up dying and leaves the house to her. This is the only weird part. You guys, I could pick apart any book, I swear to God. The only part that was weird to me was the grandma said you could have it for a year, but you can't have it for the next, rest of your life unless you have a husband. The character development was insane. Anyways, she ends up going back to the house to live there for a year because her life went upside down, and she meets her old friend. So what happens is they start talking. He kind of has like resentment towards her, and in her head it's kind of like awkward because she's like, oh, he got fine, like he's sexy AF, but time has passed and shit got weird. Anyways, he's caring for his niece. Her mom is not in the picture, his sister is not in the picture, and our main character, I think her name is Willa, is actually a teacher. So during the summer, she starts helping the little girl with her schooling, and they start this friendship. So the next book I read was Meet Me at the Lake. 3 stars. Sarah Crowley rated it 3 stars too. Okay, so our main character girl, she ends up meeting this guy and spends a day with him years before. She was in a cafe. He's an artist, and they spend a day together, and I don't know, I didn't see a crazy connection with them because it was only a day, and they promise each other a year from now we'll meet at your mom's resort because her mom has a resort, and if both of our boyfriend and girlfriend situations aren't, like if they've faded. So she goes, and he never met up with her. So years later, her mom ends up dying and she has to take care of the resort, and who comes along? Him. And basically, she kind of bothered me. Like, she didn't mention off the bat, like, hey, why didn't you meet me a year later? Like, that was dragged on. Like, I just don't know why. It was really weird. The next book I read was The Summer We Fell, and this book is about a girl. Her parents aren't in the picture. She has a boyfriend. His family takes her in, and also he has a best friend who was in foster care, and he gets taken in as well. So she's dating this guy who took her in, and they're just not compatible at all. Like, you could just tell. He's a sweet guy and she's sweet, but they're just not compatible. She sees the other guy who, was through the foster care system living with them, and he's in, like, he's getting with other girls. He's in high school. By the way, this is bouncing back and forth to high school and the current moment. So in high school, he's like getting with other girls, but they always kind of had this connection because they both came from like a broken life. So what happens is, you can kind of see where it's going, the attraction to each other, which is like really messed up because she's in a relationship with the guy that took her in. That part was kind of like, I would definitely rate this book like 3.8 stars. Something happens between them, shit blows up, and 10 years in the future, the mom who took them in actually has terminal cancer, so they go to see her. They're both super wealthy, made something out of themselves, and they go to see her. Now, the girl that she had dated actually passed away. But it is a good book. There were just some parts that morally I couldn't vibe with. I did really enjoy the characters though. I think the steaminess could have been a little bit better, but some people don't want to read like crazy steaminess. I could see how other people would adore it, but morally I don't think, because I'm really against like cheating. I actually did DNF a book. This is the 10th book, and it's called Into the Tide. The thing is with this book, okay, so this girl graduates college and she comes back to her hometown for the summer, and she has a brother, and her brother's best friend's working at a restaurant. He owns the restaurant, and she starts working there. So they were, he was always like protective towards her when they were younger, and now they're together. So her mom's gone, and her dad's actually an alcoholic, and her brother has like a wife, so he doesn't live in the house. And eventually, so he ends up taking her in. I didn't like the whole like virgin thing. They have this like tension, but then she mentions to him like, hey, maybe could I try doing this with you? And he's like, no. I think I read about 100 pages in and I had to DNF it. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for watching, by the way. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys stick with me on this channel. There are so many blessings on the way and so many blessings right in front of you. You just haven't looked hard enough yet. Notice what is right in front of you, all of the good things every day that God provides us. I hope you guys have the best day ever, and I will see you guys shortly in my next one.